you talked about water as heritage. I've been in rural work for about 50 years close to. I've seen women singing songs about water scarcity 50 years ago. Maybe today it's Bangalore's problem, but it was there 50 years ago.
Mm.
When you talk about women and water, on one side they cry about water, the other side, in clay areas, they could not even squat and shit because it turns down. So I think all this lip service is insufficient in my view, if everyone is
Correct.
right. Now I want to come to you about saying this is a mafia. Your diagnostics is right, but the people where you're putting this is worrisome. Let me give you what I'm saying. Sainath wrote that very nice book saying everyone likes a good drought. You know, drought was created so that millions could be made by contractors, you know, etc. I think the same thing is happening in the water sector.
Correct.
Is my absolute. So now what's happening in the water sector, my thing is like that. The entire discourse is being shifted from what really is inherently required to think of, right? What is happening? We are told through conferences and lobbying that, look, public investments are problematic. We need to have private investments. So there's a whole move towards productization of water.
Yes.
And that is the biggest mafia, and we don't want to identify them. They're the powerful lobbyists of that. So we are moving away from private investment infrastructure to provide what Mahatma Gandhi said was everybody's need, to the greed of this businessman. So I do suspect, let me be blunt with you, that our diagnosis should be far more wider. It should really pinpoint where the problems are coming from in the solutions that are being advanced. That's what I want to tell you. Otherwise, we are ending up as apologists for a whole technocrat academia outlook to what you called as the gift of God. Thank you.
Yeah, one that to pick up the threads where Gopalji left it, you said back then in 2004, and I can tell you, in 1983, I first reported as a journalist the water crisis in Bangalore. In the 1960s, we had only two sources of water. Both were large reservoirs, to the north and to the northwest of Bangalore. We were fine as long as we were 2 million people, and that is when things broke in 1980, and we got the first phase of Kaveri water, and the disease of long distance water came first. The greater dreadful disease of borewells came in 1983 after another government came called the Hegde government. So the deficit on water is, I think, a story, as he said, that goes back a long way. The other is that, I used to run a magazine for nearly 18 years, I think, until 2008 or 9, called Crossover. And I used to report on many of these things on water and then various issues on built environment. About 4 or 5 years down the road, when I started it in the late 90s, therefore, one day my wife sees one of those issues and she says, "Why are you reporting all the bad news? What do you get from it? Talk to me about all the positive things that are happening in the world so that maybe I can learn something from it and others will too as readers," right? So to me, I think this conversation has to go a little further into the brass tacks of what we ought to be doing. And that has frustrated us. We are trying multiple things on all these miserable digital areas of outreach and all that, but it's not getting us anywhere. So if you can give us throw some light on such things, we will possibly be a little wiser at the end of this conversation today.
I'll make my best attempts there. But what I see is, again, it has to be integrated solutions. It can't be just focusing on water technology. We have to look at community level. We have to look at opening up spaces where water dialogues can take place between the society and the government and the contractors and the people who are consulting from the academia. There has to be a space where people come together and have these discussions. Otherwise, governments always have a control. And come to think of it, Gopal sir, you mentioned about expanding a little on the mafia aspect. I think what we have in the world today, there is no more pure governance left. It is all enmeshed. So when you look at shifting the perspective or the approach or the intention, we don't have the narrative crafted as yet. It is at a community level that it has to be crafted with the likes of people present in the session. How do we open a space, curate a space, structure a space, first of all, where it's like Ubuntu. That's the best example that comes to mind, right? That really is the best example, because come to think of it, it is a social technology. It is not just a theory, but it is a social technology of reflecting on certain things that are creating deficiencies or deficits. And how do we bridge those? Because at the end of the day, it is the community that is getting affected. So I think those dialogues have become completely absent, despite the fact that we've had social media coming in crazy. So in terms of focused discussions, focused influence that has to be created, those narratives are yet to be crafted, and in the context of the region that we are in. Because the regional dynamics in itself is such a huge influencing factor about what we might say in the context of water in a Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Calcutta, or wherever, or central India, or be it Maharashtra, one of the driest places.